Hello there, and welcome to Slumber Documentaries, where we drift through the quiet corners of the universe, linger in the soft shadows of deep time, and let curiosity stretch out slowly, gently, like a long exhale at the end of the day. Tonight, we're not looking forward. We're not asking about the future or imagining new worlds. Instead, we're turning backward, not through human history, not through civilizations or empires, but through the far older, deeper history of Earth itself. Because long before cities, long before writing, long before even the first human heartbeat echoed across the savannah, this planet lived through worlds so strange, so alien, that they may as well have existed on another planet entirely. Entire continents wore different shapes. Seas moved in unfamiliar directions. Forests rose and disappeared. Creatures came and went, leaving behind only fossils and silence. And sometimes, whole worlds lasted only a moment in geological time before slipping quietly away, forgotten by everything except stone. Tonight, we're going to wander through 100 of those lost worlds, extinct Earths layered beneath our feet, one atop another like pages of a book that no creature ever read. Not with urgency, not with analysis, but with the same calm curiosity we bring to every journey here. No need to remember any of it. No need to follow closely. Just let the ancient landscapes drift by like slow-moving clouds in a twilight sky. If you're somewhere comfortable, you're welcome to settle in a little deeper. Maybe let your breath fall into an easy rhythm, and whenever you're ready, we'll take that first quiet step backward, far, far backward, into a world that existed hundreds of millions of years before even the simplest imagination had a chance to wonder about it. Picture the Earth not as you know it, but as something still cooling from its own creation. The continents are newborn, raw and jagged, their surfaces hammered by meteors and washed by volcanic rain. The oceans are young too, greenish, mineral, rich, simmering beneath a sun that is weaker and redder than the one you see today. This first extinct world is harsh and strange, a place of boiling tides and sulfurous winds, and yet, within this chaos, something tiny and fragile begins to stir. Life appears almost silently, as though slipping into existence between waves, not in forests or fields or coral reefs. Those things won't appear for a very, very long time, but in shallow pools warmed by volcanic heat. Simple cells drift through the water, feeding on minerals, dividing slowly. They don't know it, but they are the first actors in a story that will span billions of years. This world ends before anything visible walks the surface, and yet it leaves behind the spark that makes every other world possible. As time continues its quiet turning, the Earth reshapes itself again. Volcanoes rise, continents drift like slow shadows, and the seas fill with more and more life, still tiny, still delicate, but growing in number. And then, almost suddenly, the oceans overflow with forms that would look strange to us now. Soft-bodied creatures with frills and fins drift through warm seas. They pulse with movements, so subtle they leave almost no trace in the fossil record. Their world lasts millions of years before fading into another, leaving scientists millions of years later puzzled by their quiet disappearance. In another forgotten era, the oceans become laboratories of experimentation. Hard shells evolve, spines appear, eyes sharpen, predators learn to chase, and prey learn to flee. Everything moves with new intention. On the seafloor, trilobites scuttle like armored beetles, their many legs tapping patterns in the sand. In open waters, strange forms glide, creatures with leaf-like fins, creatures with jaws that barely resemble jaws, creatures whose shapes seem almost like early sketches of later life. It is a world of prototypes, a gallery of ideas the Earth tries once and never repeats. As we drift gently through this ancient ocean, imagine the water warm and heavy with nutrients, sunlight filtering down in soft green beams. The sea floor looks like an alien landscape, coral-like forms that aren't corals, forests of sponges swaying gently, long worm-like creatures anchoring themselves in the mud. Nothing here would recognize us, and we would recognize almost nothing here. And yet, for millions of years, this world thrives. It is busy, bustling, full of interactions that go entirely unrecorded except in rare fossils encased in stone. Eventually, continents collide, mountains rise, climates shift, and this rich oceanic world disappears. Not with a single catastrophic event, but gradually, like a tide withdrawing. New species replace the old, new ecosystems appear. And once again, Earth's face changes. Imagine now a coastline from a later world, one that existed long before any plant dared to reach above the water. The land is bare rock, wind, scoured and empty. But in the tide pools, life teeters on the edge of something new. Tiny organisms cling to stone, absorbing sunlight for the first time in any meaningful way. They spread slowly, forming thin green films across wet surfaces. These simple pioneers are the ancestors of forests that will one day reshape the entire planet. The air smells of minerals and salt. Waves break against barren cliffs. The sky is tinted slightly different than ours, more muted, less blue. It's a quiet world waiting patiently for the next chapter to begin. Slowly, moss, like carpets, creep across rock. Then, plants resembling low mats and simple stalks rise into the air. No flowers yet, no leaves, just early attempts at reaching beyond the ground. Small insects, primitive wingless, crawl among them. Tiny scorpions venture across damp soil, their movements cautious, deliberate. It's a fragile world, but full of potential. As millennia drift past like soft breaths, these simple plants evolve into small forests. Fern-like trees rise, casting thin shadows across wetlands, buzzing with early arthropods. Dragonfly ancestors with delicate, glimmering wings flit between branches. Amphibian-like creatures pull themselves onto land, blinking in the sunlight, adjusting to a world that demands lungs instead of gills. And beneath their feet, in swamps dense with humidity and towering vegetation, a new world forms. One that will someday become coal, hidden beneath the earth for millions of years. All of this happens long before the first dinosaur, long before mammals, long before anything familiar. These are Earth's forgotten chapters, its extinct worlds, each one building quietly upon the last. As we drift deeper into the past, continents shift again. Climate patterns rewrite themselves. Life experiments with form after form. And with every change, a new world appears, unique, temporary, extraordinary. We'll continue exploring them, one by one, not with speed or pressure, but with the same quiet patience the Earth used to create them. Let the images drift in and out of focus as softly as dreams. There's no need to follow every detail. Just let the ancient past wash over you like a slow tide, guiding you deeper into geological time. As we drift further into the deep ocean of Earth's past, time begins to lose its edges. Millions of years pass not as numbers, but as slow transformations. Continents lifting themselves like great sleeping creatures turning over in their rest. Oceans rising and falling. Climates shifting with the quiet confidence of forces older than memory. In this long stretch of forgotten eras, new extinct worlds bloom and fade like seasons in a much older cycle. An such world emerges when plants dominate the land, growing taller, thicker, and stranger than anything alive today. Towering clumos trees, some as tall as modern buildings, rise from vast, humid swamps. Their bark is scaly, patterned like the skin of some enormous reptile, and their roots form tangled mats through black, waterlogged soil. Giant ferns unfurl like green umbrellas in the damp air. The climate is heavy, the sky often hazy, and the air carries a faint scent of resin and decay. In this world, insects rule the skies. Some dragonflies grow wingspans the length of a hawk's, drifting above still waters that hide early amphibians, rising for air. Everything here feels oversized, as though Earth's atmosphere is holding its breath, waiting for the next breath of change. This age lasts millions of years before slowly slipping away. Its forests sinking beneath rising waters, becoming buried, compacted, and eventually transformed into the coal that later powered an entirely different world, the world of machines. But that is far in the future. For now, we continue drifting. The next world unfolds in slow motion deep inside the sea. Here, strange armored fish glide through murky waters, their bones forming natural helmets and shields. Some of them are enormous, slow-moving colossi that open their jaws with a hinge like a trapdoor. They bite with a force nothing had experienced before. But even they, for all their dominance, are temporary. They vanish in a blink of geological time, leaving only fragments of armor and rocks scattered across the world. And then, with a patience that only the earth possesses, reptiles begin to rise. At first, they are small agile creatures darting between thickly grown ferns. Slowly, the reptilian world expands, its members experimenting with shapes and sizes. Some become sleek swimmers, others become armored walkers. A few stretch their bodies, limb by limb, into new forms that hint at the giants to come. The continents drift again, floating like rafts across a restless sea. They gather themselves into a supercontinent, a single landmass so vast it shapes climate in ways the planet hasn't seen before or since. The center becomes dry, scorching, inhospitable. The edges teem with life. Strange reptiles and early mammal-like creatures roam sun-baked plains. The air feels heavy, the horizon shimmering in heat, and storms roll across this immense land with a force that feels mythic. This supercontinent doesn't last. None of Earth's worlds do. It slowly cracks apart, opening rifts that glow with molten rock, giving birth to oceans that will one day become familiar. But right now, nothing is familiar. Volcanoes reshape entire regions, burying old ecosystems and creating new ones. Species rise and disappear in cycles that flow like breaths, long drawn out, powerful. In a later world, when the Earth has settled into a new configuration, something remarkable happens. The dinosaurs rise, not as thunderous giants at first, but as small, nimble hunters running on two legs. They chirp, they whistle, they dart through forests that look almost alien in their makeup. Tiny mammals scurry at their feet, unnoticed, unimportant in this world's grand story. But the Earth has a quiet way of favoring the unexpected. Those little mammals will matter, though not for a very long time. As millions of years slip by like gentle waves, the dinosaurs take on new shapes. Their diversity explodes. Some stretch long necks toward treetops, their silhouettes rising like living towers against a warm sky. Others grow formidable frills and horns. Some sprout feathers that shimmer in sunlight, not for flight, but for display, for warmth, for communication. They fill every niche: swimmers, flyers, burrowers, giants, and miniatures. Their world is lush and vibrant. The forests are thick with ancient conifers, cycads, and ferns. Rivers wind through the land, carrying the tracks of enormous creatures whose footsteps echo faintly in the mud. Storms rumble above wide plains where herds graze peacefully. And in the quiet moments at dawn or dusk, the world hums with life so abundant it seems almost eternal. But nothing is eternal here. A quiet shift begins as climates change. Seas rise and fall. Volcanoes darken the sky. And in the shadows of these slow changes, new predators emerge, sleek, intelligent, patient. The world becomes tense in ways it wasn't before. Species compete in a dance older than memory, adapt, or fade into silence. And then, with no warning written into the rocks beneath their feet, this thriving world meets an abrupt, catastrophic end. The sky burns. The earth shakes. Darkness covers the land. It is a moment of extinction so sudden and so complete that it reshapes the entire story of life. When the ash settles and the fires die, the age of dinosaurs closes forever, leaving behind a quiet, empty world. But extinction is not the end. It is a turning of the page. In the silence that follows, new forms begin to rise. Small mammals, once insignificant and overshadowed, begin to explore a world transformed by loss. They grow larger, stranger, more adaptable. Some return to the water, becoming sleek swimmers. Others climb trees and glide or leap. Some roam open plains in herds. New worlds form not quickly, but steadily, like dawn spreading across a dark horizon. In one such world, the earth is warm and covered in forests. Giant birds stalk the land like ancient guardians. Strange mammals with long snouts and clawed limbs dig, climb, and forage. The air carries the scent of fresh leaves and fertile soil. Rivers flood and recede, shaping habitats that teem with unfamiliar species. This world lasts long enough to feel stable, as though its place in the story is secure. And then, just like all the worlds before it, it ends. Slowly, gently, as climates shift once again. We journey now into a world where ice creeps across continents. Massive sheets of frozen water grind their way across the land, carving valleys and shaping mountains. The world is colder, harsher, quieter. Megafauna rise to claim this new landscape. Woolly mammoths and giant sloths, saber-toothed cats whose teeth gleam in pale sunlight. Humans appear late in this world, their footprints mingling with tracks left by animals that will soon vanish forever. This too is an extinct world, one lost not only to time but to warmth, to changing climates, to human influence. It fades like all the others. These are just glimpses, gentle moments drawn from an ocean of vanished ages. And there are far more worlds waiting ahead, stranger, older, quieter, more dramatic, more mysterious. Worlds shaped by fire, by ice, by water, by evolution, by chance. Worlds that lasted millions of years, and worlds that ended almost before they began. Let the images drift through your mind without effort. You don't need to hold on to any of it. Just let the ancient earth carry you deeper. As the last echoes of the Ice Age dim and drift into memory, the earth exhales into a calmer, warmer rhythm. The colossal glaciers retreat, leaving behind valleys sculpted by their vast weight, lakes pooled in their footprints, and soils ground to fine, fertile sediment. A new world rises from beneath the melting ice, one lush, green, and teeming with life in ways that feel gentle compared to the harshness that came before. Forests spread across continents like a slow, unfurling blanket. Oaks, maples, birches, spruces, trees that would one day feel familiar to us, take root in the softened earth. Rivers swell with meltwater, carrying minerals through winding channels that glitter beneath the sun. Animals roam this renewed landscape with a quiet grace, deer gliding between trees, wolves padding silently along ridgelines, birds calling from branches heavy with new leaves. It is a peaceful world, balanced, patient, and temporary. Even in this calm, the earth prepares for another shift, one as subtle as the tilt of a shadow. Entire ecosystems respond to rising temperatures, adjusting, stretching, migrating. Grasslands expand, reshaping land that once held dense forests. Herds of grazing animals move across open plains that didn't exist a few thousand years earlier. Predators follow them, carving new paths through unfamiliar territory. This world feels close to ours, recognizable, almost comfortable. But it is still an extinct world, one erased by the march of human influence long before any of us were born. Many of the species that thrived here are gone now. Ancient horses with slender legs built for speed, giant deer with antlers as wide as small trees, lions that hunted in packs across Europe's forests, bears larger than nearly anything alive today. They wandered landscapes that now hold cities, roads, and towns. Their world slipped away quietly, replaced by ours without anyone truly witnessing its final dawn. But before this world faded, another had risen, and long before that, many others. So we drift backward again, deeper into time, leaving behind forests and grasslands, and stepping into landscapes that feel stranger the farther back we go. Imagine standing on a vast plain under a sky washed in pale gold. Towering shapes move in the distance, enormous herbivores with sloping backs and thick, muscular legs carrying them with surprising softness across the earth. These are creatures of a world warmer than ours, a world where humidity wraps itself around everything, where rivers twist through wide floodplains, where forests stand like ancient guardians at the edges of open land. Here, early mammalian giants evolve. Massive sloths, thunderous rhino-like animals, armored beasts that seem sculpted from stone. Predators prowl among them, huge cats with teeth like curved sabers, swift packs of early canids, and bears taller than any creature alive today. For millions of years, this world thrives in perfect balance, its inhabitants shaped by climates and landscapes no human eye ever saw. And beyond this horizon of beasts lies another world entirely, one defined not by fur or prairies, but by a planet still reshaping itself from ancient ruin. To reach that world, we drift back further, letting time peel itself away, layer by layer. Mountains shrink into hills, hills flatten into plains, seas retreat, then surge again. Continents slide, collide and pull apart like slow breaths. We arrive in a time when lush, steaming jungles stretch across much of the earth, even near the poles. Swamps heavy with mist cradle creatures whose forms defy expectation, crocodile-like predators with mammal-like skulls, early reptiles shaped like squat barrels, amphibians the size of small cars lurking in muddy shallows. This is a world caught between eras where the remnants of one age blend with the first shadows of the next. Thunderstorms roll across dense forests filled with ferns taller than houses. Dragonfly-like insects dart through shafts of filtered light, their wings humming softly. The air feels thick, rich with oxygen, warm in ways that would overwhelm modern lungs. Each tree breathes out the atmosphere that makes giants possible. And so, giants flourish strange, lumbering, gasping things whose rib cages rise and fall in slow, steady rhythm with the heavy air. But even this world must someday yield to change. We drift downward again, past layer after layer of time, into an earth that looks more like a dream than a memory. Picture endless forests of tree ferns stretching across a continent, broken only by glimmering marshes where early reptiles bask in sunlight that filters through canopies shaped like umbrellas. The ground is soft, holding moisture in every shaded pocket. Insects crawl across the bark of primitive trees, their colors muted, their forms unfamiliar. Salamander-like amphibians move with slow deliberation across muddy banks, their bodies slick with moisture. Everything here glistens: leaves, bark, water, even the air itself. It's a world of soft edges where the line between plant and animal ecosystems blurs into a humid haze. This world lasted long enough for entire forests to grow, die, fall, and be buried beneath new growth. Over unimaginable stretches of time, those forests were pressed into darkness and transformed into coal, each layer a chapter of a vanished world condensed into black stone. Beneath that coal lies another world older still, stranger still. We drift deeper, the earth grows warmer, seas rise, the air thickens. Land becomes rare, scattered in islands fringed with coral like organisms that are not corals at all, but ancestors of creatures we will meet far into the future. In the shallow waters around these islands, life becomes more experimental. Odd tubular creatures sway in currents. Trilobites scuttle in great numbers, leaving trails across the sea floor. Strange predators with circular jaws slice through the water like living spirals. The ocean is the heart of this world. Light filters through the water in shimmering columns, illuminating landscapes of green, brown, and ruddy red. Creatures hover, scuttle, glide, and pulse in every direction. Some feed by filtering water, others hunt with sudden bursts of motion, but nearly all are soft-bodied, delicate, and destined to vanish without leaving a trace. Except for the rare places where mud trapped their forms long enough for stone to remember them. And even deeper in time lies a world so different it barely feels like Earth at all. The continents are scattered fragments, drifting through vast seas. The atmosphere is thick with gases that would poison modern lungs. Storms lash coastlines that lack plants entirely. The only life is in the water, tiny, ancient, persistent. This world existed for hundreds of millions of years, without ever knowing a creature with a spine, without ever hosting a forest or a wing or a single set of eyes that could see farther than a few inches. Yet it is one of Earth's longest lasting worlds, quiet, stable, patient, until, very slowly, something new begins to appear. Cells begin to work together, tiny colonies form. Structure emerges. Life takes its first steps toward complexity, and beyond even this, buried deep in time's earliest shadows, there lies a world where life hasn't begun yet. A planet ruled by fire and rock and storm. Lava seas glow beneath red skies. Meteor impacts send plumes of molten earth arcing into the atmosphere. The oceans are young, restless, steaming with heat and minerals. Waves crash against volcanic islands that rise and fall within the same lifetime. It is a violent, chaotic world, yet without it, none of the others could exist. We've wandered through many extinct worlds already, but we are nowhere near the end. The Earth holds countless more, lost ages shaped by ice, heat, drought, flood, life, extinction, and rebirth. As we sink deeper into the ocean of deep time, the ancient Earth continues revealing worlds that feel impossibly distant from anything we know. Each one rises slowly, holds its breath for a geological moment, and then dissolves again into stone, as if the planet itself turns the pages of its history with patience no living thing could ever match. After the chaotic, volcanic youth of Earth fades, a quieter world emerges, one wrapped in warm, shallow seas that stretch across vast portions of the globe. Sunlight filters through clear water, illuminating reefs built not by corals, but by creatures that have long since vanished. Their skeletons form intricate towers, domes, and delicate lace-like structures, creating underwater cities for life that glides and creeps through their corridors. Strange early fish with flattened bodies rest on the seafloor, their eyes perched atop their heads like periscopes. Worms weave through the sand in twisting trails. Soft-bodied organisms ripple gently in the current. Everything here moves with a slowness that feels almost meditative, as though this world has all the time it could ever need. Above these seas, the land is bare, lifeless rock, broken only by the faint shimmer of early microbial mats clinging to damp surfaces. No forests, no animals, no sound except wind moving across stone. It is a quiet that feels endless, but the ocean below grows steadily more alive. Life begins to experiment with new shapes, new strategies, new possibilities. Some creatures grow bony plates for protection, others develop primitive jaws. A few begin to explore the edges of land, pushing against the limits of what their bodies can endure. The boundary between water and land is still sharp, still unforgiving, but nature keeps pressing against it. Millimeter by millimeter, eventually one world ends and another begins. Imagine a coastline millions of years later. Plants have begun to take hold, not tall trees or leafy shrubs, but low, moss-like mats and small stalks that break the monotony of stone. They drink sunlight with a hunger that will someday transform the entire planet. Insects follow them onto land, tiny and curious, their segmented bodies shining faintly in the sun. The air smells different here, slightly richer, tinged with the first breath of oxygen produced by an expanding web of life. Shallow lakes glimmer beneath a sky that feels more familiar than the chaotic heavens of earlier ages. The world is still simple, but no longer empty. It is beginning to stretch outward. Creatures living in the water nearby start an extraordinary transformation. Their fins grow stronger, their bodies grow stronger. Some develop the first crude versions of limbs, jointed, supportive, capable of pushing against the muddy bottom of a swamp. They lift themselves upward for the first time, experiencing the sensation of weight in a world gravity once spared them from. The air feels strange against their skin. The light dazzles their eyes. This moment, too small for any witness to see, becomes one of the most significant transitions in the history of life. But like all transitions in nature, it is slow, subtle, occurring not in a single creature, but across countless generations. The world that follows is lush with aquatic and amphibious life. Forests of tall, spore-bearing plants spread across wetlands. The ground is soft beneath them, covered in layers of fallen fronds. Dragonfly-like insects, enormous compared to their modern descendants, glide between broad leaves, their wings casting delicate shadows on the forest floor. In this world, giant amphibians rule. They lurk in shaded waters, their bodies sleek, their eyes steady and watchful. Their calls echo through dense vegetation. Small, early reptiles scurry through the undergrowth, testing the air with flicking tongues. Everything is humid, warm, and buzzing with life. But this world, like everyone before it, carries the seeds of its own transformation. Over millions of years, the climate shifts. Forests dry out. New species evolve to suit the changing environment. Reptiles grow larger, stronger, more varied. Legs lengthen, skulls reshape. Some develop tough, scaly armor. Others grow teeth meant for slicing flesh. In time, reptiles become the Earth's dominant architects of life. What follows next is a world that feels almost like a myth, a time when creatures with sails on their backs roam sun-baked plains, breathing hot air under a blazing sky. Rivers wind through vast arid landscapes where enormous predators stalk prey with slow, steady steps. In the distance, mountains rise from the Earth's crust, sharp and jagged, piercing a horizon untouched by human imagination. This world is fierce, ancient, and utterly alien. Then a shift subtle at first, like a change in the wind. But over time, the Earth reconfigures itself once again. Continents drift, oceans open and close, climates rearrange their patterns, ecosystems collapse and reform, and eventually, dinosaurs appear, not as giants, but as small, nimble bird-like creatures with feathers that catch the light. Their calls echo through fern-filled forests. Their footsteps patter softly across riverbanks. They hunt insects, chase lizards, and leap between branches with a grace that hints at a future where flight will reshape the world. The next extinct world is one of dinosaurs in their early rise, small predators sprinting across leaf-strewn ground, larger herbivores grazing in peaceful herds, early pterosaurs gliding overhead with wings that whisper softly in the breeze. The forests are dense with conifers and cycads. The air is warm, rich, and humid. Rain falls in thick, sudden sheets, drumming against broad leaves. Life thrives here. It stretches into every corner of the planet with a vigor that feels unstoppable. But time is patient, and change is inevitable. As millions more years pass, the dinosaurs diversify into forms both gentle and terrifying. Massive sauropods thunder across open plains, their long necks sweeping through treetops like living cranes. Sword-beaked predators stalk the shadows. Feathered raptors communicate in soft clicks and chirps. The world feels full, vibrant, alive with motion and sound. This age endures for so long that it becomes the Earth's norm. For over 150 million years, dinosaurs reshape ecosystems across every continent. Their world is vast, larger in scope and duration than the entire time humans have existed. Yet, even this world must end. A single moment, violent, unexpected, reshapes the entire planet. A bright flash, a shudder that travels through bedrock, a storm of fire and darkness that lasts for years. The age of dinosaurs closes in an instant, and when the sky finally clears, a colder, emptier world waits beneath the soot. Small creatures emerge into the silence, tiny mammals with clever paws and bright eyes. The last living lineage of dinosaurs flutter between charred trunks. The earth feels raw again, like a canvas wiped nearly clean. But life, persistent and patient, begins once more to fill the void. We drift now into a world of mammals, strange, early forms that move awkwardly but with purpose. Their world is lush with opportunity. Plants evolve new shapes. Flowers bloom for the first time, splashing the land with colors no extinct world had ever seen. New insects evolve alongside them, dancing from bloom to bloom. Forests thicken, meadows appear, rivers widen, the planet warms. Giant mammals evolve, towering herbivores with elongated trunks, armored beasts covered in thick plates, sloth-like creatures the size of small vehicles. Predators, massive bear dogs, saber-toothed hunters, scimitar cats, roam with quiet precision. This world is both familiar and alien, a version of Earth we can almost imagine stepping into if we reached through time with outstretched hands. Yet it too is gone. All of these worlds exist only in stone now, their stories written in layers beneath our feet, in fossils buried in desert cliffs, and in minerals sleeping silently in forgotten caves. And still, there are more worlds waiting, older, deeper, stranger. As we drift beyond the worlds shaped by massive mammals and the lingering echoes of ancient forests, the Earth begins to reveal eras that feel like quiet breaths between louder chapters. These epochs unfold slowly, each with its own character, its own rhythm, its own fragile cast of creatures, rising briefly before disappearing forever. Imagine a world where warm savannas stretch across continents that were once buried beneath ice. Like animals sweep across these plains in shimmering waves, their hooves drumming softly against dry soil. The grasses ripple like oceans beneath a vast blue sky. In the distance, long-limbed predators prowl with silent determination, moving in coordinated patterns that hint at emerging intelligence. This world feels closer to ours, yet it remains just as extinct as those far older worlds. The creatures here are familiar in silhouette but strange in detail. giant rhinoceroses without horns, elephants with upward, curving tusks, towering birds that cannot fly but run with incredible speed. They breathe air scented with early wildflowers and stand beneath skies crisscrossed by migrating flocks of birds long vanished. Across the ocean, a different world unfolds on isolated islands. Here, evolution follows unusual paths. With few predators, birds grow large, their wings shrinking as their legs become stout and strong. They wander forests thick with oversized ferns and broad-leafed shrubs, plucking fruit, seeds, and insects from the shadows. Lizards become enormous, slow-moving herbivores. Tortoises grow ancient in their solitude. These isolated realms last for millions of years, untouched by anything beyond wind, rain, and the slow grinding of time. But isolation is fragile. A shifting climate, a rising sea, a volcanic eruption, even subtle changes can transform an island world completely. And so these quiet ecosystems, these delicate pockets of evolutionary experiments, vanish without leaving much behind. A shell here, a bone there, hints of a vanished paradise now stored only in stone. Further back still, the earth brings forth a world of staggering seas and shifting coastlines. Continental shelves flood, creating vast inland oceans that shimmer under bright sunlight. The water here is warm, shallow, rich with life. Coral reefs, ancestors of the reefs we know today, spread in complex webs, harboring fish with armored scales, vibrant fins, and patterns now lost to time. Giant marine reptiles haunt deeper waters, long-necked predators that rise to the surface for air, powerful swimmers with enormous jaws. Agile hunters adapted to a world where speed and silence are the keys to survival. They move through the water like shadows, their shape sleek and streamlined, their presence commanding entire ecosystems. Their songs, if they sang at all, were never heard by human ears. But the water remembers their paths in layers of sediment. On-land forests grow thick with conifers that rise like spires, their dark needles rustling in warm breezes. Early flowering plants begin to appear, shy and delicate, offering splashes of color to landscapes once dominated by greens and browns. Insects evolve alongside them, attracted by scents and shapes that promise nourishment. It is a quiet coevolution, a whispered negotiation between plant and pollinator that will eventually reshape the entire world. But every world ends, even this one. Earth moves on, cycling into an age where deserts expand and contract in shifting patterns. Massive dunes march across landscapes like slow waves, sculpted by winds that never rest. Odd creatures adapted to this dryness, leave tracks in the sand, their feet spread wide to avoid sinking, their bodies shaped to conserve water. They live briefly and vanish completely when the climate turns again, leaving behind only faint impressions preserved under layers of dust. Beyond the deserts lies a world defined by monsoon forests, seasonal ecosystems teeming with amphibians, early reptiles, and small mammals. Rain falls with rhythmic insistence, drumming against thick leaves. Rivers swell and spill into floodplains, where ancient crocodile relatives lie in wait, barely disturbing the muddy water around them. The cycle of rain and drought, abundance and scarcity, shapes the lives of every creature here. But these worlds, too, dissolve with time, replaced by others that rise with the steady patience of geological rhythms. Drift now into a world shaped entirely by volcanoes. The sky is often gray with ash. Lava flows carve glowing rivers through forests. The air carries the metallic scent of minerals rising from the Earth's interior. Landscapes shift rapidly. A mountain here, a valley there, sculpted by eruptions that occur with daunting frequency. Life in this world clings to any stable surface it can find, adapting to heat, to chemical-laden soils, to unpredictability itself. Yet even in such a place, nature persists. Ferns rise between cracks in cooling basalt. Small insect-like organisms scuttle through shallow crevices. Primitive reptiles soak in warm geothermal pools. Stability is rare, but life only needs moments to take hold. As the volcanic era fades, oceans expand again, welcoming new waves of creatures that evolve into wildly different forms. Ammonites drift with coiled shells that gleam like polished silver beneath the waves. Jellyfish sway in hypnotic dances, their bodies pulsing with the gentle rhythm of currents. Tiny, translucent organisms fill the water like drifting sparks. This marine world is vibrant, diverse, almost dreamlike. It lasts for millions of years, but like all the others, it eventually recedes into memory. Let's drift deeper still, into a world dominated by strange forests made of towering lycophytes and giant horsetails. Their trunks rise straight upward, perfectly vertical, forming dense stands that block much of the sunlight. The ground below is dim, quiet, and damp. Insects creep along fallen logs. Millipedes the size of small dogs coil lazily under rotting wood. Amphibians hide in shallow pools that reflect the filtered light overhead. This world feels ancient in a different way, not because it is old, but because it is untouched by anything remotely familiar. It is a vision of Earth as a garden of towering, spore-bearing giants that would seem alien to modern eyes. And beneath the roots of these plants, in the murky depths of ancient swamps, enormous amphibians lurk with broad heads and wide mouths. Their eyes remain just above water, patient and still, waiting for prey that never suspects the presence hiding in the dark. They are masters of ambush, and for millions of years they thrive. Eventually, though, even these mighty amphibians fade. Their world dries, new plants evolve. New predators rise. The earth moves on, as it always does. Dive again, further back. So far that oxygen itself was a newcomer, barely forming in the atmosphere. The seas are rusty with dissolved iron. Lightning cracks across thick clouds. The horizon glows with volcanic fire. This world is harsh, scorching, and chemically chaotic. But life finds a way in the form of simple cells learning to use sunlight for the first time. These microscopic organisms will ultimately transform the planet, flooding the atmosphere with oxygen and creating the conditions for every complex creature that comes after. But here, in this world, they are just beginning their slow, steady work. It will take them millions of years to reshape the sky, and beyond them lies a world even stranger. A frozen earth almost entirely covered in ice. White expanses stretch from pole to pole, reflecting sunlight back into space. The oceans beneath the ice remain liquid, faintly warmed by geothermal heat, but the surface feels like another planet entirely. The snowball Earth, as scientists call it, lasted long enough to rewrite the possibilities of life itself. Beneath the ice, tiny organisms form fragile ecosystems amid the cold darkness. They survive barely. And when the ice eventually melts, the planet is reborn with a burst of evolutionary potential that fills the oceans with new forms of life unlike anything seen before. These are only some of Earth's lost worlds. Many more wait beyond, hidden deeper still in the layers of time. As we drift deeper into Earth's vanished eras, the shapes of the worlds we encounter become stranger still, like distant dreams half remembered by the planet itself. These are realms where nothing familiar has yet taken form, where life experiments with structures and strategies that would seem impossible today. Imagine, for a moment, an ancient shoreline washed in pale green light, not from plants, but from microbial mats that coat the rocks in living layers. The tide moves across them with a slow, deliberate pull, lifting strands of filamentous life that sway like underwater grasses. The air carries no scent of flowers. There are none yet, only the raw, metallic tang of minerals weathering under a young sun. In the shallows, bodied organisms pulse gently. Their bodies are translucent, their forms lacking symmetry, bones, or even the concept of a face. They drift, they anchor, they divide. Some resemble ripples of jelly, others look like flattened ribbons curling on themselves. This time in Earth's history is often called a biological question mark, an age where life seems to be practicing, testing shapes, ideas, and patterns with no fear of failure. For millions of years, this gentle experimentation continues. Then gradually, creatures begin to develop more defined forms, segmented bodies, mouthparts, eyes. These simple innovations reshape the ocean, turning it into a realm of both wonder and danger. predators appear small at first, but bold with grasping limbs and sharpened appendages. Prey evolve armor, speed, evasive reflexes. The oceans become busy, vibrant, alive with purpose. This surge of complexity marks the birth of a new world one, where diversity explodes into every available niche. On the seafloor, trilobites carve paths through sediment, their bodies patterned with intricate grooves and ridges. Above them, strange creatures with spiky limbs float through the water column. Long eel-like predators strike with astonishing speed. This world feels like the first confident brushstroke on the canvas of life. And yet, its brilliance is fleeting. A series of environmental shifts, cooling temperatures, changing oxygen levels, sweeps across the oceans, dimming this vibrant chapter. Many forms vanish entirely, their delicate bodies dissolving into the sands of time. Others endure, carrying their ancient lineage forward into worlds yet to come. Now we move into a realm shaped by stillness, vast, shallow seas lit by a softer sun. Here, enormous reefs grow in strange patterns, forming labyrinthine structures that stretch for miles. These reefs are not like modern coral reefs. Their architects are unfamiliar creatures, colonies of life forms that fuse together, rising like living stone towers. The water is warm, calm. Shadowy shapes drift between the reef pillars, their bodies carrying the memory of ages past. At the same time, the continents begin to gather strength. Land masses rise and drift, nudging against one another. Mountain ranges form in slow, steady heaves. Rivers carve paths into fresh stone. The Earth is no longer an oceanic planet alone. It is a place where land and water trade influence in a grand dance billions of years in the making. On one such landmass, low-lying wetlands stretch into the distance. The air is heavy with moisture and the scent of decay. Primitive plants rise in dense stands, simple stems bearing spores instead of leaves. These early forests produce enough oxygen to slowly transform the atmosphere. Creatures follow soon after, millipede, like giants, creeping across rotting logs, early arachnids moving with purposeful strides. Small scurrying forms whose lives unfold in shadows. This world is rich with evolution's early attempts. Some of these creatures thrive. Others disappear almost as soon as they appear, leaving behind faint impressions in mud that will one day solidify into stone. But Earth is always changing. The climate warms, seas rise again. Entire ecosystems drown beneath tidal waters. What survives adapts. What cannot fades quietly into extinction, joining the countless chapters already lost. Further back still, we find an Earth locked in ice. This frozen world stretches from pole to pole, a white desert illuminated by a sun that offers little warmth. Glaciers grind continents down to their bones. Wind sweeps snow into vast dunes that move like frozen waves. Beneath the ice, the oceans are still alive. Life clings to hydrothermal vents, warm oases of minerals and heat rising from the deep earth. Bacteria thrive in these extremes, forming the foundations for ecosystems that will one day resurrect the world. When the planet finally thaws, it does so with dramatic force. Floods carve new coastlines, oceans bloom with life, and a new world begins, a world rich with opportunity, ready to be filled. In this next era, life becomes truly experimental again. Creatures with soft fronds filter nutrients from the water. Others develop tough shells etched with delicate patterns. Sponges grow into towering forms. The oceans teem with a quiet, surprising diversity. This world lasts for millions of years, long enough to shape many future lineages. Yet ultimately it too dissolves, replaced by another wave of evolutionary novelty. From here, we glide into a time when the Earth's continents have very different shapes than the ones we know. They cluster together in ways that defy modern geography. Mountain ranges rise where oceans will someday exist. Basins deepen where cities will one day be built. The world feels oddly sideways, as if someone rearranged the map in their sleep. Forests spread across these continents, dense with prehistoric plants whose textures feel ancient and unfamiliar. In their branches, early vertebrates adapt to new roles, small, scurrying reptiles that look almost mammalian. or slender creatures with elongated bodies slipping between leaves in search of insects. Predators evolved too, creatures with long jaws, sharp teeth, and bodies built for stealth. They prowl through humid undergrowth, eyes adjusting to the dim light beneath towering tree canopies. Their prey is abundant, and so this world thrives. But even this stability is temporary. A warming climate brings droughts. Forests thin, swamps shrink, animals that depend on these ecosystems vanish. Those that adapt survive to build the next link in the chain of Earth's evolving worlds. Then, a new shape emerges on the evolutionary stage, the first great reptiles with sprawling bodies and upright gaits. They move with slow, confident strides across barren plains, their shadows stretching long in the setting sun. Some evolve armored hides, others develop sails on their backs to regulate heat. Their world is one of extremes: dry deserts, harsh storms, and dramatic cycles of abundance and scarcity. This world lasts millions of years before giving way to another. Now we drift into an age before the dinosaurs dominated, when the Earth was a patchwork of rainforests, conifer woods, and open scrublands. The air is warmer, the seasons gentler, and life moves in delicate balances shaped by slow continental drift. Strange herbivores chew on tough plant fibers. Semi-aquatic reptiles glide through slow-moving rivers. Early flying creatures, ancestors of pterosaurs, leap from cliffsides, their wings catching the updraft with surprising grace. The world feels vibrant, lively, full of potential. And then, as continents shift once more, volcanic activity surges, massive eruptions darken the sky, ash settles over entire regions, temperatures fluctuate wildly. Many species disappear, others rise in their place, new predators, new grazers, new innovators in the evolutionary landscape, and suddenly, quietly, the age of dinosaurs begins in earnest. Feathered hunters move through forests like shadows. Giant sauropods graze across open plains. Pterosaurs soar through thermals rising from sunlit cliffs. The world hums with sound and motion calls echoing across valleys. Footsteps stirring dust into golden haze, rivers teeming with early crocodilians watching the shoreline with ancient patience. This world feels endless, but it too will fall into silence. And still, we have not reached the end of Earth's extinct worlds. Many lie ahead, some ruled by giants, some by tiny incandescent life, some shaped by fire, others by ice, all carrying the long, slow heartbeat of the planet. As we drift further into the ancient landscapes shaped by dinosaurs and early plant life, time begins to stretch itself in longer, quieter arcs. The Earth settles into a steady rhythm beneath our feet, reshaping itself slowly while entire worlds rise and fade like gentle breaths across the ages. After the vibrant reign of the dinosaurs reaches its abrupt and fiery end, the planet cools into a period of uncertainty. Ash drifts through the sky, filtering sunlight into muted shades of amber and copper. The forests grow thin. The air feels strangely hollow, as if sound itself has retreated. For a moment, geologically speaking, the Earth holds its breath. In this quiet, empty world, small mammals emerge cautiously from the shadows. They creep through charred underbrush, sniffing at a world still recovering from deep trauma. These creatures are small, unremarkable by appearance, yet they carry within them the promise of entirely new worlds. Their nimble paws and curious noses guide them into niches left vacant by the giants who once thundered across the land. As years pass into centuries, and centuries into millennia, the forests return. New plants evolve, offering fruits and seeds that nourish small populations of mammals, birds, and reptiles. The world becomes green again, alive with a fragile optimism that grows stronger with each new season. Eventually, the Earth warms into a gentle, humid climate that supports a rich tapestry of life. Dense jungles spread across continents, filled with creatures both familiar and strange. Early primates leap through the canopy, their long limbs catching branches with agile precision. The forests echo with calls, chirps, and songs that no human has ever heard, and never will. Among these trees, new predators evolve, sleek carnivores with saber-like fangs, broad paws, and powerful jaws. Their movements are fluid, almost silent, as they stalk prey among ferns and fallen logs. Meanwhile, Herds of browsing herbivores wander through the understory, feeding on leaves and fruits from towering trees. Life flourishes here, unbothered by the knowledge that this, too, is a world destined to vanish. As time continues drifting on, vast grasslands spread across the continents. Tall golden grasses sway in warm winds, creating oceans of shimmering blades beneath wide open skies. Herds of grazing animals form vast migrations, their movements shaping the land in subtle but significant ways. Predators move alongside them, patient and calculating. The world feels young again, full of movement and vitality. But these grasslands have their own cycles. Droughts come and go, fires sweep across the plains. Lightning splits the sky in bright flashes that illuminate distant silhouettes of wandering beasts. Yet life returns after every disturbance, stronger and more varied than before. The earth has mastered resilience, a quiet strength that underpins every lost world we encounter. Beyond these grasslands lies a cooler, more temperate world, an earth shaped by shifting glaciers and long winters. Ice spreads across the poles and creeps slowly down through the continents, carving valleys and mountains with its immense weight. Rivers swell in the warm seasons, then freeze solid again when the cold returns. This world is harsh, but it sustains enormous creatures, mammoths with thick, shaggy fur, giant bison with horns, like massive arcs, reindeer herds that migrate across frozen landscapes under pale skies. The wind carries a crispness that feels ancient. Snowflakes fall silently across tundra, creating patterns on the land that seem almost meditative. In deep forests nearby, giant sloths lumber through the cold undergrowth, their enormous bodies adapted to a climate that demands patience more than speed. Saber-toothed cats lie in wait, their pale coats blending into the cold morning light. This Ice Age world feels hauntingly beautiful, a place defined by silence and breath, where the Earth's pulse beats slowly through cycles of freeze and thaw. Eventually, warmth returns again, and with it, the giant creatures begin to disappear. The forests shift, the plains change, rivers cut new paths through softening soil. These gentle transformations signal the closing of yet another world, a world that existed long before ours, yet one whose footprints remain etched in bone and stone. But we are not done yet. Beyond even this stretch of time lie worlds, so ancient they defy easy imagination. Worlds not shaped by mammals or dinosaurs, but by forces more primal. Return now to a time when thick layers of atmosphere cloaked the Earth, trapping heat and creating a greenhouse world unlike anything we experience today. Oceans boil near volcanic vents, rich with minerals that support bizarre clusters of tube worms, shrimp-like creatures, and glowing bacteria. Entire ecosystems thrive in total darkness, sustained not by sunlight, but by the chemical energy rising from beneath the crust. This realm feels otherworldly, like stepping into the heart of an alien planet. Further beyond, life once again reduces itself to its simplest forms. The Earth cools, stabilizes, then heats again. Continents shift, collide, and tear apart in a long sequence of geological breaths. Volcanoes sculpt new islands from molten rock. Storms batter coastlines with relentless force. The land is barren, but alive with potential. These earliest worlds are fragile yet enduring. They shape everything that will come after, providing the foundation for ecosystems more complex than the Earth could ever have predicted. And still, we move deeper. Imagine an Earth where nothing lives on land, where the continents are silent. Wind swept massifs of stone with no vegetation to soften their edges. The sky is tinted by gases that would make modern animals gasp in seconds. The oceans, however, pulse with possibility, tiny swimmers drifting in the currents, their delicate bodies absorbing minerals, sunlight, or chemical energy. They divide, they cluster, they merge, they evolve. In these waters, one of the most transformative moments in Earth's history takes place. Some cells begin to cooperate. They come together in small clusters, sharing tasks, sharing roles. They form the first multicellular organisms, simple at first, but revolutionary in their potential. This cooperation is the spark that allows later worlds to exist. The next world forms from this spark, rich with new shapes. Creatures that leave trails in the sand, creatures that anchor themselves to rocks, creatures that float like thin, luminous discs through the water. Their forms seem abstract, unfinished, as if evolution is sketching ideas in the margins of its notebook. But these sketches will eventually become blueprints, and deep beneath these waters, life's earliest experiments continue in darkness. Hydrothermal vents billow smoke like plumes into the sea, creating oases where life thrives at temperatures that would destroy most modern organisms. Here, evolution learns endurance, teaching life how to survive in extremes. As we drift through these early worlds, we begin to understand just how many Earths came before our own. Worlds of ice, worlds of fire, worlds of endless ocean, worlds of green that rose one day only to vanish the next. Worlds that lasted millions of years, and worlds that flickered briefly before disappearing into stone. And still, even after crossing this immense ocean of time, there are a few last worlds waiting, some peaceful, some violent, all forgotten except in the memory of the planet. Time opens before us like a vast plain, stretching so far into the past that even imagination struggles to keep pace. We have wandered through worlds of giants and worlds of silence, through forests that scraped the sky and oceans that glowed with life older than bones. Yet beneath all of these, beyond the layers of time we have uncovered, Earth holds more worlds still. Worlds so strange they seem closer to dreams than to memory. As we drift deeper into the planet's ancient past, the shape of the continents dissolves entirely from anything recognizable. They are pieces scattered like puzzle fragments across an ocean that covers most of the globe. The seas are warm, rich with minerals, and tinted faintly green by microscopic organisms drifting just below the surface. These waters cradle a new cast of creatures, forms that look like living ribbons, living cones, living questions. They move with delicate pulses or drift passively through currents, their bodies soft, symmetrical in unusual ways, responding to an environment that is both simple and endlessly vast. The ocean floor in this era is a world of its own. Thick microbial mats drape over rocks, forming strange patterns and textures that ripple under the movement of water. Burrows and trails mark the paths of early worm-like creatures that slip silently through silt. In the dim reaches of the seafloor, life thrives without sunlight, sustained by chemicals seeping from cracks in the crust. Hints of the alien world's Earth once was. Eventually, the planet gathers its scattered landmasses once again, forming a colossal supercontinent. Its interior is harsh, dry, and nearly lifeless. But along the coasts, rich ecosystems flourish. Shallow seas teem with early fish, creatures with bony armor and faintly shining scales. Their movements create hypnotic patterns in the sunlit water. On land, simple plants cling to the edges of rivers and lagoons, reaching cautiously for the sky. This world is young, but full of momentum. As time sweeps forward, evolution accelerates. Fins become limbs, eyes sharpen, bodies adapt for speed, strength, camouflage. In the oceans, powerful predators develop serrated jaws. On land, amphibians grow large enough to command entire territories. The first forests rise, thick stands of tall plants that reshape the atmosphere with every breath they release. The canopy filters sunlight into patches of shadow, and beneath it, the ground becomes cool, damp, alive with insects and small vertebrates. But while the forests rise, another world forms silently beneath them. Layers of fallen leaves and trunks accumulate in swampy lowlands, building thick beds of organic material. Over millions of years, these layers will sink, compress, and transform into ancient coal, the buried echoes of a world we can hardly imagine. Eras shift again. The forests thin. Reptiles grow large and varied. Some evolve armored plates that gleam under the sun. Others elongate their bodies into serpent-like shapes. Some rise onto steady legs and begin to explore the land with newfound confidence. Rainstorms sweep across vast plains, thunder rolling through skies ripe with moisture. Lightning strikes trees, igniting fires that reshape the landscape in wide, sweeping arcs of flame. In their wake, new plants take root. Then, the earth changes once more, subtly at first. temperatures rise. From these environmental pressures, new creatures appear, fully adapted to the evolving world. Early archosaurs, ancestors of crocodiles, birds, and dinosaurs, emerge with long limbs, sharp senses, and a drive that will eventually carry their descendants into every corner of the planet. Drift forward again. Forests of ancient conifers stretch toward the horizon, their trunks thick with resin and their roots sinking deep into fertile soil. In this world, the air is warm, the humidity thick, and life thrives in ways unseen before. Giant herbivores graze on towering cycads. Early pterosaurs spread their wings and lift into the air with uncertain beats. The skies begin to fill with life as the evolutionary experiment of flight takes its first tentative steps into the unknown. This is a world of transitions. One foot in the past, the other stepping toward the future. And yet, like all worlds we have visited, it is temporary. Time presses on, and the age of dinosaurs rises fully. Sauropods leave massive footprints across soft earth, their long necks swaying as they feed. Predators evolve teeth curved like blades and senses sharp enough to detect movement from incredible distances. Small feathered creatures race through forest floors, their chirps echoing among ferns and fallen logs, their feathers shimmer in sunlight filtering through the canopy. Here, the earth feels full, overflowing with life so abundant it seems beyond exhaustion. But nothing lasts forever in deep time. Volcanic eruptions send waves of ash across continents. Climate shifts roll across landscapes. Ocean chemistry changes. New species appear, old ones vanish silently. The world reshapes itself moment by moment. And then, after millions of years of dominance, the dinosaurs face the sudden end we've witnessed before. An end so swift, so final, that it seems almost unreal in the slow language of geological time. In the quiet that follows, mammals rise once more, claiming opportunities left behind by vanished giants. The earth warms into new vitality, and forests spread across continents. But this world won't last either. Even gentle worlds must fade eventually. Move now to a time where tropical seas flood continental margins, forming warm, shallow reservoirs brimming with life. Coral reefs bloom along coastlines, forming structures that shelter countless fish, crustaceans, and cephalopods. Sunlight dances on their surfaces, creating shimmering mosaics of color. Sea turtles glide through open waters, their movements timeless and graceful. This world feels familiar in some ways, yet is filled with species we'll never know. As climates shift once more, grasslands begin spreading across continents. Herds of grazing mammals migrate across open plains. Predators follow them in silent pursuit. The world becomes one of movement, dust, thunderous hooves, and wide horizons. Rainstorms break across the plains, baptizing the land in fresh water. The cycle of life continues, but grasslands too rise and fall. Forests reclaim them. Then deserts reshape what the forests reclaimed. World after world unfolds in this rhythmic dance. And still, even deeper within Earth's history, farther than memory, farther even than imagination, there are more worlds. Worlds where the oceans were tinted purple by different life chemistry. Worlds where the sky was orange with volcanic gases. Worlds where lightning storms crackled across landscapes with no life yet to witness them. Worlds wrapped entirely in ice. Worlds bursting with heat. Worlds with air so thick a human breath would feel like inhaling syrup. Worlds where continents sat clustered at one pole, leaving the rest of the planet an empty ocean. Worlds that lasted only a few million years, or tens of millions, before collapsing into the next. Every one of these worlds is gone now, lost in the deep hush of geological time, but they are not forgotten. They are written in stone, in isotopes, in ancient seabeds, in layers of fossilized forests, in cliffs carved by rivers, in mountains built from sediment lifted skyward. The earth remembers even when we cannot. And now, as we approach the final stretch of this long journey, we begin to feel the weight of deep time settling softly around us, not heavy, but immense, like standing beside an ocean that has no shore. As we drift still further into Earth's forgotten past, it becomes clear that most of the worlds we pass through are not marked by dramatic events or explosions or extinctions. Many are quiet worlds, subtle worlds, shaped by slow rhythms that stretch across millions of years. Worlds that rise gently and fall just as gently, leaving behind only faint echoes in stone. Consider one such world, a realm where enormous inland seas stretch across continental interiors. These seas are shallow, warm, and filled with life that hovers just below the surface. Soft-bodied creatures undulate in rhythm with gentle tides. Early mollusks settle on sandy bottoms and filter tiny particles drifting through the water. Rays glide like silent shadows. In deeper regions, marine reptiles with long, flexible necks weave through shoals of fish, their movements eerily graceful. Along the shores of these inland seas, the land is flat and fertile. It holds thin forests of primitive trees, their roots drinking from groundwater close to the surface. Herds of small herbivores forage along the margins, pausing occasionally to drink from the shallows. Predators lurk nearby, sleek, low-bodied animals with strong limbs and sharp eyes, their movements almost soundless in the dusty heat. But even this vast, tranquil world is temporary. Over time, the seas retreat, leaving behind layers of evaporated minerals that glitter under a relentless sun. Entire ecosystems collapse in the drying basin. New ones rise on the exposed land. The climate shifts, the rains change, and the earth quietly replaces one scene with another. Time rolls forward again. Now imagine a world where towering volcanic plateaus dominate the horizon. Lava flows spread across wide regions, cooling into intricate patterns that crackle under the weight of new life trying to take hold. The air carries the sharp scent of sulfur. The sky is often tinted orange at the edges, painted by gases released from Earth's inner furnace. In the wake of each eruption, plants begin the slow work of recolonizing the land. First mosses and simple ferns, then sturdier shrubs, then forests that drink deeply from mineral-rich soil. Animals follow, cautious but determined. Insects build new colonies in warm cracks between rocks. Small reptilian creatures bask on sun-heated stone. Early mammal-like animals creep through shadows at night, driven by instincts honed over countless generations. They find shelter in caves made warm by ancient lava tubes and sleep beneath ceilings carved by molten stone long before they were born. This volcanic world reshapes itself constantly. Eruptions, ash falls, rivers redirected by new hills that weren't there the season before. Life adapts or perishes, but the cycle continues, steady and quiet in its inevitability. Carrying on, we drift into a world dominated by shallow lagoons and mangrove, like swamps stretching far inland. Here, salt-tolerant plants reach gnarled branches into the humid air. Mudflats stretch under an enormous sun, flickering with the movement of crustaceans and early amphibious creatures. Birds, ancient, long-legged forms, stalk through the muck, searching for fish caught in small, still pools. Their calls echo across the water, creating a haunting chorus that resonates through the dense air. This world is warm, wet, vibrant, but its edges are fragile. Storm surges reshape entire coastlines. Powerful winds churn the lagoons with each passing season, and over time, rising seas swallow the low-lying swamps entirely, turning them back into ocean. The creatures that depended on these habitats vanish, transformed into fossils buried in marine sediments. Further back, the earth reveals a realm marked not by warmth or forests, but by desiccation. Imagine endless salt flats stretching toward a pale horizon. Not a single tree breaks the view, only the shimmering mirage of heat rising from the ground. Crusts of salt crunch underfoot. Shallow pools dry into cracked mosaics. Life here is sparse, reduced to hardy forms that tolerate extremes, creatures that burrow deep underground, plants that grow low and waxy to conserve moisture. The wind carries dust and whispers across wide basins. Occasionally, thunderstorms roll through with explosive force, flooding dry riverbeds only to evaporate again within days. The cycle creates ecosystems that exist only briefly, blooming, buzzing, thriving for days or weeks before fading back into silence. This too is an extinct world, forgotten by everything except the minerals left behind. But Earth has many more layers. Drift now into a world ruled by enormous forests, not the fern-filled forests or conifer forests of earlier ages, but sprawling, interconnected woodlands that stretch across entire continents. Tall, broad-leaved trees create dense canopies, their roots locking together in an intricate underground network. The air is thick with moisture. Rain falls in sudden storms. Sunlight reaches the forest floor in scattered beams that flicker like the reflections of stars. In this forest world, mammals grow bolder. Small primates leap from tree to tree, using their hands with dexterity unknown in earlier creatures. They form small groups, grooming, communicating, watching predators move below with intense, calculating eyes. Their world is a three-dimensional labyrinth of branches, leaves, and vines. A world that encourages thought as much as strength. Predators of this era are agile and quiet, moving through shadows with deliberate patience. They stalk small mammals and birds, using stealth perfected over millions of years. Sometimes they watch from above, sometimes from the forest floor, but always with the silent precision of species adapted to a complex environment. This lush world will eventually give rise to entirely new possibilities, but it too is not permanent. Shifts in global climate contract the forests. Grasslands expand once more. Creatures that thrived among branches must learn to run or dig or adapt in countless new ways. Now imagine an even older world, one far removed from the forests and plains. A world dominated by oceans, so vast they leave very little exposed land at all. The seas churn with storms that sweep across their entire surface, carrying rain from horizon to horizon. Lightning cracks against open water. Waves rise as tall as small buildings, driven by winds that know no obstacles. Below the surface, this ocean is full of life. Ancient sharks roam its depths, cephalopods stretch long, delicate tentacles through the gloom. Fish of strange shape and size glide through open water. Some creatures glow faintly, their bioluminescent bodies creating constellations beneath the waves. The deep is silent, cold, and ancient, a place where evolution moves slowly but with relentless determination. This world lasts for millions of years before tectonic forces reshape the earth again. Land rises, mountains grow, new coastlines appear, the endless ocean retreats, leaving behind vestiges of a once global sea. Drift deeper beyond this. There was a time when Earth was dotted with many small continents, archipelagos, island chains, fragments separated by immense bodies of water. This world looked something like a scattered puzzle, its pieces drifting slowly across the globe. Each island hosted its own evolutionary experiments. Some grew forests, some remained barren, some housed animals that evolved into peculiar shapes, dwarf species, giant species, forms unlike anything found on larger continents. Isolation breeds uniqueness, and so this world was full of oddities, creatures that filled roles unknown elsewhere. Ecosystems that existed only in small pockets, but over time, continents collided, islands joined or drowned. These tiny worlds dissolved into broader landscapes, and still we drift deeper. There are worlds even earlier than these, worlds where life is nothing more than a thin film across warm, shallow seas. Worlds where oceans are tinted by iron, turning the water red. Worlds where volcanic islands erupt endlessly, sending rivers of molten rock streaming into the sea. Worlds where lightning storms strike the ocean countless times each day, delivering energy to a chemistry not yet alive. Even older still, a world before oceans, before atmosphere, before anything could grow. A molten earth glowing with heat, its surface broken by dark basaltic crust. Meteorites fall in a constant bombardment, carving craters that fill with lava. The sky is a haze of smoke and gas. There are no sounds except the roar of fire and the crack of stone. This world lasted long enough for the planet to cool, for oceans to form, for life to begin its long path. But it is as extinct as any world can be, a world erased not just by time but by transformation on the grandest scale. All of these worlds, hundreds of them, stack beneath our feet in silence. We walk across their remnants every day, never feeling the weight of the eras below us. And yet, the Earth remembers. As we move into the final layers of Earth's deep past, time begins to feel almost fluid, as though each world we enter is simply another ripple in a vast, ancient sea. The further back we drift, the more the edges of these worlds soften, and the more distant they begin to feel, like memories the planet itself has nearly forgotten. Now imagine a world where the Earth's surface is scorched by ceaseless sunlight. Not the gentle warmth we know, but a harsher, more direct radiance filtered through an atmosphere still uncertain of its own identity. The continents are barren, their surfaces cracked and shimmering. Valleys stretch for miles with not a single sign of green. Seas are shallow, warm, and murky, rich with minerals, but poor in complexity. Life here is microscopic, clinging to survival in thin layers across the planet's surface. It's a quiet world, but beneath that quiet lies enormous potential. These simple organisms evolve slowly, accumulating changes one mutation at a time, building the foundation upon which all future worlds will stand. The Earth slowly cools, storms gather, and the land reshapes itself again. In the next world we enter, life has moved deeper into the oceans. It lingers around towering hydrothermal vents, black chimneys built of minerals rising from the ocean's crust. Hot, mineral-rich water gushes from their openings in dark, shimmering plumes. Around them, strange and resilient creatures thrive. Tube worms with blood-red plumes, blind shrimp navigating total darkness. Organisms that draw energy not from the sun but from the chemistry of the deep earth. This world exists without light, without forests, without any sound beyond the low rumble of shifting tectonic plates and the soft crackle of mineral-laden water. It feels lonely, but also peaceful, a realm perfectly content in its isolation, far above these vents. On the ocean's surface, the first blue skies appear. Sunlight finally pierces through a thinning haze. The sea glitters, catching the first reflections of a world just beginning to breathe. Time drifts onward and continents begin to rise again. In another world, a chain of volcanic islands arcs across a vast ocean. These islands are young, jagged, steep, dark with fresh basalt. Their beaches are coarse and black. Steam rises from cracks in the ground. Rain falls in sudden bursts, feeding small pools where simple organisms gather in clusters. These islands are laboratories of early life, shaping what will eventually become the biological complexity of later worlds. The Earth breathes heat, rock, and water into cycles of creation that repeat for millions of years. Then comes a world defined by its storms. Thick clouds swirl overhead, carrying lightning that forks across the sky in endless patterns. Thunder rolls across continents still sparse and bare. Rains fall hard, carving channels into the land. Rivers appear, then vanish. Lakes fill, then evaporate. These violent cycles shape the earliest landscapes that will one day cradle forests, plains, and countless organisms. This was a world of cleansing and carving, the planet's own way of sculpting itself into something capable of hosting more elaborate life. As time moves on, the world grows wetter, cooler, calmer. Oceans spread, continents shift, the air becomes more breathable. And in this new world, the first faint hints of color appear, pigments in simple cells that will one day give rise to the greens of forests, the blues of berries, the reds of flowers, the millions of hues that color the living earth. This gentle blooming marks a turning point in ancient time. Further still, the earth lies under skies tinted by methane. The oceans appear greenish or even purple due to microbial life that thrives in the absence of oxygen. Strange chemical reactions color the water in ways we can hardly imagine. To stand on the edge of this ancient sea would be to gaze into a world that looks more alien than familiar. Its atmosphere thick, its shoreline barren, its life microscopic yet utterly dominant. This world lasted for longer than all the worlds of dinosaurs, mammals, forests, and ice combined. But like all things, it eventually changed. Oxygen begins to fill the atmosphere, slowly, gently, then suddenly in geological terms. This new gas is toxic to many early organisms, triggering one of the planet's first mass extinctions. But from this devastation emerges a new type of world. one with the ingredients necessary for complex, multicellular life. Drift now into a world where early organisms with stiffened bodies begin building reefs in shallow waters. They grow upward toward the sunlight, forming massive structures that curve and twist like the skeletons of forgotten giants. These reefs become cities of life, hosts to tiny filter feeders, primitive fish, and soft-bodied creatures drifting in gentle currents. As we move through these ancient waters, we can almost sense life's determination. Each new form is a step forward, a quiet but persistent march toward complexity. This reef world fades as continents shift yet again. Next, the Earth delivers a world of vast tidal flats where early creatures leave the faintest impressions in soft mud. Trails, burrows, tiny footprints, all destined to become fossils. These delicate marks are whispers across time, telling us that even the simplest life left traces of its existence. Past this comes a world defined by low oxygen levels and intense volcanic activity. The skies are thick with haze. The land is dark. Oceans rise in great floods, covering enormous stretches of continents. Entire ecosystems drown and reform. But through it all, life adapts in ways both subtle and extraordinary. And now, as we drift toward the oldest world still left to explore, the Earth begins to blur. Time stretches so far back that even stone carries only faint hints of what once lived here. The planet becomes a place of fire, of boiling seas, of unceasing storms. Volcanoes roar without pause, sending molten rock into oceans that hiss with steam. Lightning strikes thousands of times each hour, igniting chemical reactions that will eventually help life emerge. This was not just one world, but countless worlds, each lasting only moments in geological time, each laying the foundation for the next. They blur together like brushstrokes of deep time, and beyond even these lies the earliest world of all. A world without life, without oceans, without anything that breathes or grows. A world that is simply a molten sphere cooling in the dark. A world waiting for rain to fall. Waiting for oceans to fill, waiting for chemistry to awaken, waiting for life to spark into existence, waiting for the entire story to begin. We've reached the edge of deep time now, standing at the threshold where the Earth had not yet become Earth in any familiar sense. All the extinct worlds we've traveled through exist above this point, layered like quiet dreams beneath our feet. As we stand on the threshold of Earth's earliest beginnings, it becomes clear that this planet has lived more lives than any mind could fully hold. The worlds we've wandered through, from molten seas to frozen deserts, from ancient jungles to oceans pulsing with life older than bones, are not just chapters but entire volumes of a story so immense it stretches beyond imagination. Even now, drifting through this deepest layer of time, the Earth feels almost unfamiliar. The sky is darker, the continents are unformed, the oceans are boiling, restless, shimmering with chemical storms that will eventually give rise to the first fragile glimmers of life. Nothing yet moves by choice. Nothing yet breathes. The air is thick with gases no lungs could tolerate. But even in this raw, violent youth, the seeds of every future world lie waiting. Unhurried, eventually the planet cools enough for the first raindrops to fall without instantly vaporizing. They hiss when they touch the ground, leaving thin trails of steam as they slide across hot rock. More rain falls, and more until, at last, the skies open completely, releasing torrents that will fall for millions of years. Water pools in craters, joins in streams, gathers into lakes, merges into swelling basins. The oceans are born not in a moment, but in an era-long sigh of the planet itself. This first ocean is heavy with minerals, dark, metallic, simmering with heat rising from the crust below. And somewhere within its depths, life begins. Perhaps at the surface, where sunlight filters through, perhaps near hydrothermal vents, where heat and minerals mix in constant alchemy, perhaps even in small, protected pools along volcanic shores. We may never know the exact place, the exact moment, but we know it happened. A spark kindled under conditions unlike anything alive today could endure. From that spark, entire worlds unfolded. Worlds where life was nothing more than drifting films of cells. Worlds where the oceans carried soft creatures without skeletons. Worlds built of towering coral-like structures made by beings long extinct. Worlds mastered by armored fish, by giant amphibians, by reptiles with sails on their backs. Worlds ruled by dinosaurs for a length of time almost incomprehensible to us. Worlds reclaimed by mammals in the long shadow of extinction. Worlds reshaped by ice, by warmth, by fire, by time itself. All of them built on the faintest beginnings in this first ocean. Now imagine all those worlds stacked beneath us, not vertically, but folded through time like layers of soft fabric, each one touching and influencing the next, even when their inhabitants never saw each other, never breathed the same air, never knew the same sky. We walk every day on ground made from their remains, rock formed from ancient seas, soils grown from ancient forests, mountains lifted from the compressed bones of creatures long gone. Even the oxygen we breathe is a gift from worlds billions of years old. The air is full of memories we can't hear. The stones are full of echoes we can't decipher, but they are there holding the weight of every vanished age. If you close your eyes for a moment, it's almost possible to imagine the soft hum of deep time beneath you. A slow, steady rhythm that has been pulsing through the earth since long before any human voice was here to listen. Deep time is quiet, patient, and vast. It does not rush. It does not pause. It simply flows, carrying worlds into existence and guiding them gently into extinction, always making room for the next. You and I, sitting here in this moment, are part of one more layer, a thin layer, a fleeting one, but a world nonetheless. A world with its own landscapes, its own creatures, its own mysteries. One day far in the future, it will join all the others in silence, becoming another extinct world for whoever or whatever might come after us to wonder about. And that knowledge does not need to bring fear or sadness. It can bring comfort. The understanding that everything moves, changes, transforms, that we are part of a long, continuous story that stretches from the earliest sparks of life all the way to the edges of time still unwritten. As we rise slowly from the depths of this ancient ocean of memory, returning to the present, the world around us feels different. Not physically, but quietly within. Each extinct world we visited leaves a faint impression, not sharp, not detailed, but soft, like the afterglow of a long-forgotten dream. The landscapes we crossed existed once. They shaped everything that came after. But they also remind us that the present moment is just as temporary, just as sacred, just as delicate as any lost age of the past. And now, as we drift toward the end of this journey, let your breath soften, let your thoughts settle, and let the vastness of deep time carry you gently into the quiet. We have one final step together, a peaceful, slow descent into rest. And now, as we rise slowly from the depths of ancient time and return to the world we know, something in the present feels a little different. Maybe it's the way the room around you seems quieter. Maybe it's the way your breath falls into a slower rhythm. Or maybe it's simply the weight of perspective, the kind of quiet understanding that comes only from wandering through ages older than imagination. We have walked through continents that no longer exist, oceans that vanished into stone, skies tinted by gases no creature today could breathe. We've drifted through worlds filled with giants, and worlds filled with almost nothing at all. We've seen life flare into brilliance, collapse into silence, and rise again in shapes the earth never repeated. And through it all, one thing has remained constant, the deep, patient rhythm of the planet itself. It's comforting in a way to know that the earth has lived through so many versions of itself, fiery, frozen, lush, barren, filled with life, emptied by catastrophe. And every time it found a way to begin again. The worlds we visited are gone, but they are not wasted. Every vanished forest, every extinct species, every forgotten coastline shaped the next chapter. Even the quietest of those worlds left ripples that carried forward through time, eventually leading to the one we live in now. And you, listening here, are part of that same story. A late chapter. Perhaps a small one in length, maybe, but not small in meaning. The atoms in your body were forged in stars older than the earth. The water you drink once drifted in oceans filled with creatures long extinct. The stones beneath your feet were built from the remains of worlds we've just walked through together. In a very real way, deep time lives in you. You are made of worlds that rose and fell billions of years before your birth. You carry the memory of those ancient ages in every breath you take. And as we settle back into the present moment, this quiet room, this gentle breath, this soft bit of time that belongs only to you, let the weight of all those vanished worlds soften into a kind of peace, a comfort, a reminder that everything changes, everything flows, everything finds its place in the long story of the planet. Your world, the one you are resting in now, will one day also become another layer in that story, another world the Earth once held, another chapter in the deep, ancient book of time. But for now, you are here, safe, drifting, breathing. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to hold on to. Just let yourself sink into the stillness that follows a long journey. Let the ancient past fade into a soft, distant hum. Let your thoughts grow slower, quieter, gentler. And if your eyes grow heavy, let them close. If your breath deepens, let it. If sleep comes, let it wrap around you like the calmest ocean. Thank you for wandering through deep time with me tonight. Thank you for letting curiosity carry you through worlds that no longer exist. And thank you for letting this moment be a quiet one. Wherever you are, whatever hour it is, you've reached the end of the story, and now you can rest. Good night, and sleep well.